Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Pentester Recruiter podcast. Today, I'm joined by my guest and good friend, Brad Nigh. How you doing, Brad?
Doing well.
Good. Brad's been a little bit under the weather lately, a little bit sick, but he's back fighting fit. You're feeling good, aren't you, buddy? Now.
Yeah. I'm here in Minnesota and it's 55 degrees, so it's like summer almost, right?
Oh,
It's nice.
this happens at the start of every pod. I had a guy on from California the other week, guy on from New York, and although I recruit the US market, I'm here in London, and it's cold and rainy every day. I don't like talking about the weather, so there you go.
So, yeah, that's funny. Minnesota people tend to talk about the weather a lot. Cold in the winter and hot in the summer.
Okay, Brad, I'm going to do a little bit of an intro. Brad's done various different things. If I remember rightly, hosted around 200 podcast episodes himself. I'm sure we'll get onto Brad's pod in a bit. It's called Unsecurity InfoSec. Brad has had various roles over the years: sysadmin, network engineering, and he's currently worked his way up to being a director of professional services and a principal security consultant simultaneously, FRSecure. If you're interested in taking CISSP, Brad is the man, and you're going to hear about that shortly. But little introduction from me. I could never do it as well as you, my friends. Who are you? What you've been up to? How's it going?
Sure. I've definitely taken a little bit of a different path, I think, than a lot of people. I'll out my age a little bit. My first job in IT was with a clipboard and a floppy disk doing Y2K updates. So writing down what computer serial number and what day it was updated. Started, from the bottom, and then I've done sysadmin work. I've been manager, just a little bit of everything. I've worked for companies from 50 employees up to large international organizations in just different roles. Came to FRSecure in July of 2016, moved up to Minnesota from Lexington, Kentucky. I wanted to get full time into security and really focus, and just seemed like a really good opportunity. Here I've done basically a little bit of everything. I've been consultant to start. I've done solutions architecting for several years. I still help out with it with our essays now. Like you mentioned, director, principal. I've done primarily virtual CISO work, risk assessments. Earlier on, I don't do a whole lot of the risk assessments anymore, but I still carry a billable workload of vCISO clients. Just really important to, I think, stay in the game, as it were, right? As soon as you get out, you get passed up pretty quickly. It's easy to do that.
Yeah, we were talking about this before. I think I said to you before, whenever I meet a pen tester now who wants to go into management, even if it's advantageous to me, I'm like, are you sure? Because everyone that comes off the tools, I think 50-50 is okay, something like that. But if you come off the tools entirely, I just know people will be back on the phone saying, I'm bored, I'm missing it.
I actually no longer manage people here. The team grows so much. I think, gosh, when I started, there was 15, maybe 18 people, and we're now at 100. So it just got to be too much. It wasn't the best for the organization, right? If you have somebody skilled in something, why take them out of that? Let's get the right butts in the right seats, so to speak. So I was happy to do that.
Cool. Brad, what I want to talk to you, I know me and you have spoke before, and this kind of podcast is all about people's career progression. And I think people look at yourself, you're in a very senior role, you're operating at director level, you've had a lot of success. And I know from talking to you that, that your intentions are so good, and even paying forward's the wrong way, because you give and you don't even expect anything back. And I think this is something we can really pick up on. I know you're very community led. I know you do a lot within the InfoSec community, and let's say expect nothing in return, and it's paid dividends over the years. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and how the listeners might benefit from adopting that kind of mindset?
Yeah, I think the big thing is you just start doing it, right? That's really where it starts. I think a lot of it is where I maybe didn't have some of the mentorship and guidance earlier on in my career that I would have liked to have had. Just trying to provide that for others. Just why should they have to learn the same lessons? If I can help them out, great, let's do it. I think our founder, Evan, our whole thing is mission before money, right? If you follow the mission, you'll find money. If you follow the money, you'll never achieve your mission. And we are a very mission-driven organization. It really does start at the top. And just having that encouragement from the top, from the founder, to say, hey, yeah, it's okay to give back. It's okay to do these things. It really does help. It makes it easier, right? I've done a bunch of speaking engagements and I don't charge for those. I've been flown all over for those. We do, our CTO, Oscar, does a lot of those engagements as well. So it's really about fixing a broken industry, right? InfoSec is broken to a point where a lot of it is FUD and selling and just a cash grab. And our whole thing is let's just do information security correctly and help others do it correctly as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thanks for that, by the way. And I think so. Basically, being around, having that the culture that you've got in FRSecure is basically you haven't got someone on it. You going, why are you jumping on a podcast with Tom the recruiter? You're actively promoting it, which makes it easier. And also, it's probably just the cultural thing. It's a good influence on you if that's all you've known. Being around the guys at FRSecure for a while, it really helps. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, if you follow your mission, good things happen. We've had phenomenal employees come to us because of the free stuff we do. So yeah, is there a benefit to us as an organization? Yes, but that's not our goal. Our goal is let's help people. And if we benefit as part of that, great. But hey, if they get another job and we can help them succeed in their career, I'm just as happy with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, I know from stuff I've done myself, even if I just think about LinkedIn stuff, it's such a nicer way to do business as well. When people come to you and say, I've seen that, can you help me? And it's just nicer, it's more enjoyable. I think it's the kind of the modern way to operate, really.
Yeah, it's always great when you have people that want to work with you as opposed to, hey, the CFO signed this and I just don't really care or whatever it is. Yeah, when they're coming to you, a much more enjoyable experience for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And those growth numbers you talked about, obviously, if you're growing from, forgotten the initial number you said, but gone up to 100 in a fairly short space of time, you've obviously got a lot of people approaching you then.
Yeah, it's amazing to think back. I've been here almost 7 years now, and it's all been just organic, natural growth. We're privately owned. Owners are phenomenal at putting profits back and investing in the organization so that we can do things the right way and take advantage of being able to do these free giving back to the community.
Yeah, no, great, Brad. Do you know what? Someone actually DM'd me yesterday saying they've been listening to a few episodes and they said they're really getting the vibe from different episodes that building a personal brand's important, giving back's important. I think since remote working, I think being community led, I know since I've been a remote worker, I crave that community. Sometimes I don't see many people for a long time. And it's one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast is because, I really want that kind of interaction, even if it's virtual. All that's great, but I think a lot of people, they do think like, where do I start? Yeah, and I know that it's a case of putting one foot in front of the other. Have you got any additional advice you could give on that one?
Yeah, again, the biggest thing is just start. When Evan and I started the Unsecurity podcast 200 episodes ago, it was, if you go back and listen to it, it's pretty painful. But you just got to start. The other thing is reach out to the people in the community that are actively doing this. There's a lot of really good people out there that are willing to help. Reach out and ask for advice, ask for that mentorship. I don't care if people reach out to me. It's great. There's others like that. Just don't keep pushing it down the road. Just get started with it and take that leap.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And I think as well, even if you do reach out, my thing is be polite and persistent. Because I think sometimes if you're reaching out to people, I know from my own experience, you reach out once, nothing. You reach out maybe a third or a fourth time, and you get to meet the person. And they're actually like really grateful that you did reach out in the first place. They're just really busy. Yep. So I think be polite and persistent. If someone ignores you, still go again because everyone's busy, especially in InfoSec at the minute. People are crazy busy.
Yeah. I had a week off for vacation and came back and was like, it took me 8 work days to get caught up on emails. If you do reach out and I'm a little slow to respond, be nice.
Yeah, no, cool. Very good, Brad. So the CISSP course, I'd love to hear more about that. I know you've told me bits and bobs. Can you tell the listeners what that's all about and how it helps?
Yeah, so we do the CISSP mentor program. It's actually in progress right now, but everything is on YouTube, so you can get caught up. This is my 6th year teaching it and our 13th year overall of doing it. The first, 6 years or so, Evan did it by himself. I think he started with 6 people in the class. I started in April of 2017. We had about 20, 25 people. I didn't teach last year. I had to take some personal stuff come up, so I wasn't able to help last year. But this year we have, I don't know the exact number, but over 19,000 people signed up for it.
Wow.
And it's crazy. And this year we have 4 instructors, so we're only having to teach 2 classes. The first 4 years, it was Evan and I for all, 13 classes, 2 to 2.5 hours twice a week. It was draining. So it's been a relief this year to spread that workload out with some other people.
Yeah,
But
brilliant.
totally free, no catch whatsoever. You're not going to get marketed to. It's truly just, hey, here, let's give back. We know people can't afford $3,000-$5,000 for other boot camps.
I get nervous doing a podcast with just one guest on. What is it like speaking to 19,000 people?
I'll be honest. Honestly, it's not that much different than one-to-one. The biggest difference is you get no feedback whatsoever. I was definitely a little nervous when I led the class a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, the in-person was a lot easier just because you could see the class, you could get feedback, but online there's a delay from the recording to when it gets streamed on YouTube. So our moderators have to help out because it's like a 15-second delay. And so I can't watch the chat and try and cover 200 plus slides of material. So you're just hope this goes well.
Yeah, hope I'm all right.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's really hard too because you don't realize how fast you're going.
Yeah.
So it's really an important thing to slow. I caught myself going a little, and oh no, slow down, because I can talk really quickly, but that's not going to help people. It's going to go too fast for them to get notes or to absorb it. So yeah, it's been a little different.
Yeah, no, I think as well, but I think I did a post about it once, but when you feel uncomfortable, I always try and remind people that is when you're actually in the optimal growth phase. And anything that feels uncomfortable at the start tends to feel amazing afterwards. I know from doing the pods, I get nervous before, then afterwards I'll run straight through and I'm like, oh, friends, I'm really happy. It does, I think it enhances your stimulation levels, it reinforces the knowledge you've got. Obviously, it helps the community. So it is genuinely win-win, isn't it? It's
cool. Very much. Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of times when we're teaching it that it's like, this sucks. You're going to have to memorize it. The only time I ever think of this is when I'm teaching it. But it's in there. It's required knowledge, right? It is good to get that annual refresh of that information and keep yourself, I think it helps keep you a little bit grounded. It's easy to be like, well, I've got all this other cool stuff going on. Oh, no, wait, let's focus on the foundation and make sure we stay the course.
Yeah, cool. And just a quick one, Brad, because if I'm going to start, say if I want to start an initiative for a different certification or anything, was that just a case of you and Evan just went, we're going to start? Was it literally that simple?
Yeah, Evan just basically started it and it was like, he's like, hey, I'm going to do this. He'd worked at a lot of larger corporations, felt burned out of the whole industry and kind of the money grab of it, and was like, I just want to, he's very, like I said, mission driven. And yeah, he was just like, I'm just going to do this. And our sales and marketing is like, why are we not charging a little bit for this? And no, that's not the point. Even if we charge $20, no, we're not doing that. This is for the community.
Yeah, no, cool. And I don't want anyone to think I'm plugging FRSecure because I'm not, and I've got no motivation to do it. But there's something else you said that really I thought was really cool. If anything at all, you really play it down and you don't try and sell anything at all. You just remind me what that was again.
So yeah, we think this is a joke. However, not totally sure. Our founder Evan had a F-250, so real big pickup, and his ongoing comment was that if he finds out that we sold something to a customer that they didn't need, he'd run you over. and we think he's joking, but I'm not 100% sure. That really does go to our approach. Is we've turned customers down like we're just not the right fit for you, and here are some other organizations that might be a better fit. And part of that is really we want to be successful and we want them to be successful, and if it's not a good fit, then let's find them the right fit.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's great. And I think as well, if I bring it back to what the listeners can learn from that, again, it's just taking that long-term approach, doing things properly, having the faith that it will work out. And I think in the social media age these days, and it's so hard to forget that because everything's instantaneous culture. And I do think it's a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
worry. And I see it at the junior end of the market as well. People maybe get one certification, and sometimes I get DMs like, not having a go at me, like, but oh, good though, what's going on? You're a recruiter. It's not my fault, but it is. It's long term.
Yeah, and talking about it from a career perspective, you can get certifications. We saw this in the early 2000s when you had the paper Microsoft cert in CSEs where they just took the test, passed the test from memorization, but didn't have that real world experience. And yeah, the certifications help and show that you do know the stuff, but there is just, quite frankly, in my experience, there's no replacement for that experience. Nothing ever goes by the book. Anybody that's been doing it for any amount of time is going to tell you, yeah, the book says this, but here's the reality. And it is tough to be patient and get that experience, but I think it's really crucial for your long-term growth. And the more well-rounded you are, the better you're going to be. Like, if you want to get into pen testing, maybe you do sysadmin work before then. Maybe because if you understand and you've managed that Windows environment, you're going to understand how it works and a better understanding of how to exploit it. So personally, I really did try to going back to the career, get a well-rounded, diverse employment background. And I think it served me well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think as well, Brad, the nature of what I do, clients only pay my fees for the best, sometimes mid-level, but senior level. So all I see is the very senior end of the market. And I see a lot of the time how much fun they're having. I see how much money they're earning. And that's never going to be easy or quick. That's just not how life works.
No, you look at it, I've been doing this IT for coming up on 24 years now. Security and IT of some sort. It just takes time to get that under your belt and to see those things.
Yeah, no, definitely. Guest I had on the other week, he was talking about being a sysadmin, and he just basically within a few sentences he talked about popping a shell on a commercial engagement. I went, whoa, how long was that over? He went, 10 years. I was like, okay. He made it sound like it was like a month.
It just takes time to do that. And that's not to say there aren't really skilled junior level people coming up, but I think it's important to stay humble and listen to the people that have been around. They're going to know tips and tricks, and you're going to learn a ton from those guys and girls that have been around for a while and have seen it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Moving on, let's talk about you getting recognised in the airport. So I'm going to ask you about that, and also if you can tell us about some of the media-related stuff you've done, how it's helped the community, and how it's helped your profile and career and stuff as well.
Yeah, so getting recognized is definitely not why I do this. And there's actually been two instances. So the first was I was coaching my daughter's soccer, and one of the moms came over and goes, "Hey, weren't you on the news yesterday?" And I'd done an interview on the local, I don't remember which one it was, about smart devices, things like that. And so that was pretty interesting. And then, the other one was somebody who had done the mentor program and listened to our podcast and just happened to pass by in the same area of the airport, and I happened to be wearing an FRSecure shirt, and they was like, "Oh, hey, wait." Oh, it's not why I do it. It's weird. I don't know. It's a little strange. I can only imagine how celebrities and others feel.
Yeah, I think it would be too much. If you had it all the time, I can see how it would get quite frustrating quite quickly.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Talking about media, I've done interviews on the local news several times. They reach out when there's any big security news. It's nice it helps the brand and helps the company, and it's cool. My daughters are teenagers and they're not overly impressed. I mentioned to my oldest, I was on Beyond the News, and she's, "Oh, what are you going to talk about now? There's microchips in the rain and blah, blah, blah." Well, okay, no respect, but it's fun to do.
Yeah, I said to you before, I thought you get loads of dad points for that, but obviously not. I'm just not with the trend anymore, Brad, these days.
No, they're not impressed. Their friends are impressed, but they're like, "Whatever, Dad."
Okay, Brad, moving on to the next question. So I've asked you if I want to boost my brand in the community. Maybe I'm a mid to senior level pen tester. I'm doing pretty well, but I want to help. I want to help out more. I want to do more. Is there any areas that you think would be a good place to start? Maybe I am mission focused. Maybe I'm doing everything right, and I'm listening to this now and I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm going to get started. What do you think would be a good area to focus on?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that we're going to touch on this in a little bit, but I think it's really important here. The Simon Sinek book, Start With Why. That was really, when I read that, everything really clicked.
Okay.
So yeah, all right. So I think I would recommend reading that and understanding what's your why, and that will help you figure out where to go. And it could be mission, it could be, maybe it is money. There's nothing wrong with that, but understanding your why, what drives you, is going to really help you understand, okay, I really want to get back to the community. How can I do that? Oh, maybe it is LinkedIn post. Maybe it's I start a YouTube channel. Maybe it's I start a podcast. Whatever it is, really understanding what drives you and understanding your why is going to make it a lot clearer, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will make a huge difference to the pace at which you can progress at. I think it will make a huge difference to your happiness levels, the
Mm-hmm.
quality of work you do. There's something, and I heard this on a recruitment podcast yesterday. It's something called a driver analysis, and it's what you just said there. It basically tells you what you need fulfilled and happy and things like that. Like, I know for yourself, it would be obviously, I know mission would be just so high
Yeah.
up there. So maybe that's something for people to think about.
Yeah, I agree. If you're just in there every day, just doing your job and not feeling fulfilled, or you're just plugging along, figure out why you're doing this. It'll help you align. And yeah, like you said, really helps your mental health. You feel better. You feel more fulfilled with your work. It just, it's a huge positive overall.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what it's like, Brad, when you're happy and you're enjoying it, you're almost racing against the clock because you almost time's going too quick. Like, it's not dragging by any stretch. Like, it's
Oh, no. Yeah, I think we've all had those jobs where it's just, oh my God, what am I doing here? I've been here, like I said, almost 7 years, and there's been tough days. Let's not sugarcoat it. Everybody has tough days. They're hard days, but there haven't been bad days. There haven't been days where I've just been like, I just don't want to work today. And I think everybody's been in that position where you're just like, I just can't deal with this today. I hate whatever it is, the culture, whatever. So yeah, it's really important to find what drives you and find a organization that's going to really support that. And once you figure those things out, it's incredible.
yeah, cool. Yeah, very good. So Simon Sinek, Start With Why.
Yep.
Yep, cool. Project, correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Project Hyphy,
Right.
Network Threat Hunting Volunteers. That's an
Yep.
initiative that I believe, did you start that one or you started it with Evan?
Oscar started that one, our
Okay,
CTO.
okay,
That's his baby. So I'll
okay.
give him full credit on that. Yeah, it's going back to the giving back. It's completely free. Organizations can sign up. There's a vetting process. I'm not entirely sure all the details on some of that, but basically they do free threat hunting external. They'll search breach databases, they'll look at vulnerability scans, reconnaissance, looking for indicators of compromise for organizations that maybe couldn't or don't have the funds or the wherewithal to be able to hire for some of these services. So it's when our IR team has some downtime, if they're not working cases, they can work on that. Or if our pen testers have a little bit of a lull in their schedule for whatever reason, they have something they can go and do. So it helps our team stay sharp with their skills and fill some downtime, and also helps give back to the community. So I think, and Oscar will probably yell at me because this number is probably pretty old, but there was over 70 organizations that we've worked with so far, and probably much higher than that at this point. But it's a pretty good initiative, I
So,
think.
yeah, no, I do as well. So, just to be clear, but so basically, it's an organisation. They're in trouble. They've perhaps been attacked or something like that, and you step in to kind of help
They'll,
out.
yeah, or just let's say maybe it's a small accounting firm, right? Maybe they've only got 5 or 10 employees. They don't really have the funding to do a full pen test and threat hunting. So they can go and sign up and say, hey, here's why. Or maybe it's a nonprofits, things like that. So it's really focused for, I think, more for those kind of smaller organizations that maybe aren't going to be able to do security. So we'll just go and do basically a threat hunt on their external interfaces and looking for indicators of compromise, search breach databases, things like that, just to, hey, here's what we found. We found you have a critical vulnerability open to the internet with a known exploit. You really should fix that, right? So it's trying to prevent breaches and incidents for those organizations that really would close them down.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And I think as well, like you say, if there is any downtime, it keeps people on the team stimulated, keeps their skills
Yep.
sharp. It's a bit of a
Yep.
self-development tool for you guys as well.
Yep. Yeah. There's
Mm.
also a threat feed, so they'll do a quick write up of any of the new things that come out. Try to put our spin on it, a little bit of humor, and we also have a weekly news kind of that we go through and curate. Just to get, and yeah, you can go sign up for the weekly news. You get it every Tuesday morning.
Great.
It's completely separate from FRSecure. It's not a sales thing. It's giving back again.
Mm.
So if you want curated news and don't try to keep up with everything, sign up.
Yeah, that's great. So anyone can sign up for that.
Yep.
Yeah, great. Cool. Very good. What I'll do, anything that Brad mentions, by the way, is we'll post some links in the show notes because there's obviously there's books, there's links, there's initiatives, there's CISSP courses. So we'll get everything in the show notes. So don't worry if you're listening thinking you can't remember everything. I'll make sure it gets in the notes. But very good. So Brad, obviously you're operating at principal level, director level. You're used to working with pen testers, being in and around them, seeing people that are exceptional. You've perhaps seen people that are good, but not. I think the question I'm trying to ask is, have you got any advice for mid to senior level pen testers that are trying to improve? Where do you think biggest kind of self-development gains can be made in today?
I think the biggest area that we see a lot is around communication, being able to communicate with the client in a clear manner. I think a lot of pen testers are very introverted. They don't like to be out and talk, and just the ones that truly stand out are the ones that can deliver to the client. I've seen phenomenally technically skilled pen testers that just freeze when they're trying to talk to someone. And that's so frustrating because they have so much good stuff to say. It's really that communication and being able to understand and talk the language of the people you're presenting your results to.
Yeah.
Don't talk over them, understand their language and how you talk to them. That's one of the things that we talk about in the mentor program and just in general is we're not normal, right? There's 800,000 InfoSec people in the US and however many million we're way outnumbered. So how do we talk to the air quote, the normal people and understanding, we have our own language. If I tell somebody on the street I popped a shell, they're going to be like, what'd you do to a turtle? They have no idea. So being able to explain what you've done in a way that they're going to understand is going to really help your career.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard it being put before as realizing your value, and I think it's what you said there. It's like you've met people before; they're so technically strong, and if they don't refine these communication skills, it's almost not fair on them because I think that guy or girl you mentioned there was technically just off the charts, amazing, but the end client might have thought they were useless,
Right.
which they weren't. And I think for anyone that's kind of shying away from those communication skills, I do feel that if they don't refine them and practice them and get them better, I just ultimately think it's going to stunt their growth and the
Yep.
success they
Oh,
can have.
100%. You're going to get stuck in a certain level because, as you get more senior, you're going to have to typically my experience, you get a little bit more customer facing. They want to trot out the senior people and show them off. You're not going to get there if you can't present well to the end user, the client.
Yeah. Okay. Any tips, Brad, for improving those skills?
Funny for me, going back to my weird path here, in high school as a freshman, I took theater because I needed one more class, and I was like, that sounds easy. And I ended up doing it for 4 years. And it really helped, right? Because you're performing in front of people all the time. And it's really just a matter of getting comfortable with it. There's a ton of public speaking classes. I know there's a ton of resources out there. It's just a matter of remembering your value, like you said, getting comfortable with yourself and understanding one of the things I think we see is you question your value, right? And you got to remember if you're doing these tests, you're likely way more engaged and skilled than the people you're presenting to. And you are providing value. There's a reason they came to you. So just remember, hey, look, I know what I'm doing. I'm good at this. Let's figure out how to talk to them in a way they understand and get that value. And just the more you do it, the better you'll get. It's just again, it goes back to this practice. You have to do it for it to become natural.
I think I really like that what you've just said, and I think it's a really good point. It almost goes back to it's just a mindset because if you look at a pen tester, so he or she picks up web app And then all of a sudden, cloud's massive. So they pick up cloud, maybe AWS, and have a look at Azure. And then they're like, oh, I want to get into red team. And they pick up red teaming up and go off and build some C2 framework. Hang on a minute. You can pick all these new things up, but you can't pick the communication skills up. That kind of system is probably a mindset, because I think you're probably quite good at picking new things up.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always so much to learn in offensive security, especially, and it moves so quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's part of why I love doing this, is it doesn't slow down. You constantly have to learn. And that typically seems to be the mindset of a lot of the people that I've seen in pen testing and consulting, is they don't stop learning. They don't want to slow down. Yeah, you're not going to be alone. That's not going to set you apart. It's how you communicate is probably going to be a big differentiator between you and maybe somebody who's the same technical level, or even a little bit more technically skilled.
No, definitely. Brad, I've had clients recently and they've got very strong technical skills, and they've literally said to me on the brief, we need them to be able to do the job. Let's be clear. We need someone that can talk to clients. We need someone better on scoping calls. And it's almost like they're not discounting the technical stuff, but they are. And I'm seeing it more and more, like communication skills, they're coming to the forefront more and more, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, definitely. Cool. I wanted to ask you about blue team and red team, main differences that you've seen, and how it can be helpful for pen testers to have a understanding of both sides. I think sometimes, not all, it's a bit of a generalization, but sometimes hackers can just get so excited and obsessed with the red team, and they don't want to know about the blue. And I think that can be detrimental. Yeah, can we talk about that?
Yeah, and my background much more is in the blue team side of things. I've definitely dabbled with some of the red team stuff, but our red teamers would embarrass me without question. We send them to DEF CON every year, and they've finished top 2 or 3 in the different CTFs, so they're really good. But I think the best ones, what I was talking about, is understand what makes you a better red teamer pen tester is understanding what the other side is going to do, right? How do their defenses work? How does Active Directory work? How does 365 interact if it's on-prem, if it's a hybrid environment? So understanding how those things work, I think, helps you be more efficient and probably more successful as a pen tester.
I would imagine it's massively going to help you stay stealthy as well if you need to. You need to know which EDR is going to go off if you do this, that, and the other.
Right.
You're just not going to know, are you, unless you've got the...
Yeah. And I think the biggest argument between our red and blue teams is the red teamers complaining that the blue teamers have it easy because they've got all the tools, and they create a new beacon and it's only good for a couple of days, maybe a week, and they are constantly having to change it. And the blue team, but we're behind the ball. We're coming in after the fact, trying to put this all together. And so it's funny to listen to back and forth of who has it worse.
Yeah. Brad, the thing I was just thinking, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I know from speaking to other guests, like they've got clients and they've spent sometimes millions on EDRs and stuff like that. If you've just mentioned how good your pen testers, red teamers are there, if they do blast through one and the end client spent a fortune on it, how do you, from a communication perspective, how do you approach that?
How do you tell them their baby's ugly?
Yeah.
That's kind of how we talk about it a little bit, is, hey, how do you tell someone their baby's ugly because when you're working in IT, that's your baby, that's your environment. It's really trying to, I think, frame it in the most positive way of, hey, look, we're here to help you. Here's what we found. Here's how we did it. And here's what you can do to prevent that from happening in the future. Nobody's ever going to have a completely risk-free environment. There's going to be something. I know we've done tests where they were switching computers and somebody accidentally left a spreadsheet with some passwords. And as soon as that report came up, they went, oh, I knew I forgot. Darn it, I can't believe I forgot that. We're human. It happens. It's really going into it with an educational approach. Hey, here's what we can do. Here's what we did. Here's how you can prevent it. Here's how you can find it in the future, and not how we got you messed up.
Yeah, you just got pwned. Yeah, none of that.
No.
So just to summarize then, so I'm on an end client call. It would probably be referencing the fact that you've seen it before, referencing the fact you're here to help, letting them know that no system is ever going to be perfect. So you're just really easing them into, and this is what happened.
this is why you hired us. You wanted us to
Okay.
find these things before the attackers did. Like, it's that approach of,
Yeah.
hey, this is what you hired us for. Somebody was going to find it. You're probably happy it was us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, cool. And I think as well, the knock-on effect, if they like you and the communication skills are good, I can imagine if they're not, I can imagine on the next test, finding stuff and getting stuff fixed can probably, if there's no communication there, I can imagine that's very difficult. And, it's,
Yeah, there's definitely pen tests where we found that exploited the same thing. It's like, why didn't you fix this? And whatever the reason, maybe there was staff turnover, maybe the report got locked, whatever. It is a little frustrating from our side to, hey, look, we did all this work. We told you what to do and you didn't do anything. There's a reason we have customers that come back year over year is because we do find new things every year as well. And they do patch it. And they're like, at some point, I have one of my VCSOs that we've been working with for a long time. And they're like, at this point, I'm just trying to make sure that they don't get in before 3 days before they get domain admin. That would be a win for me because I know it's just going to happen. I just want to make it take longer than last year.
Oh, very good, Brad. Okay, in terms of, I think we've covered a bit of this already, but on the soft skills, I think we really have. We kind of jumped ahead a bit here, but on the soft skills, is there anything else? Because I do think it's really important. I know you've said just making them realize it's normal, here to help. Is there anything else
Yeah.
at all? About you've given us loads, but is there anything else? Or
No, I think the other thing that we've been really successful here in our senior level is we're open. There's no ego. And I know I've had people that were 1 or 2 years into their career that were starting as associates and come to me and say, here's the issue. What about this? And I'm like, I never would have, that's an approach I hadn't thought. That's awesome. Let's take advantage of that. It is really important to be open, not have that ego, listen to others, even if they are junior to you. Everybody has different experiences coming up. They're going to see things differently. That's what makes working on the team so great is you get this just vast knowledge base to pull from. So you take advantage of it.
yeah, no, definitely. And but there was that. I wanted to talk about that YouTube channel you sent me the other day. Yeah, so this is to help juniors. Yeah, people coming
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's if you search it's Ambush EDU, all one word. That's our red team is Ambush, which is a group of tigers. So that's where they came up with that. Yeah, they just put out their first one. It's really intended for, hey, you want to get started? Here's what we've learned. Here's some free lessons to understand what we're doing.
yeah, definitely. Now, I think as well. I think for anyone wanting to help out in the community, I think there can never be enough of that stuff.
No, it goes back to just everybody's got the different experience. I know going back to the mentor program, a big part of what we do is, yeah, you're still going to have to study really hard for that test, but we're trying to give you relatable information. What has our experience been so that you know how to make it register and remember it? And that's the whole point is just, we've done this decades. There's things you're going to learn. All right, listen to it. And how can we help? And what would have made our lives easier coming up?
Yeah, no, definitely. Another thing, brother, just springs to mind. When you applied for your job, there was a bit of a unique story there as well, wasn't there? Didn't you just drive over? Just remind me, because I think this is a good one.
Yeah, it was. So I was in Lexington. We were looking to move up here to the Twin Cities area anyway. And I found the FRSecure website and it resonated with me with the message and the mission and all that. But they didn't have any jobs posted. So I just sent them my resume at that point I was in CSP, my CISSP, CISM, my ITIL foundations, just all the different certifications. And I was like, hey, I'm looking to move. Do you know of any of your clients that would be, I so noticed you didn't have any jobs posted. Do you have any clients that you know are looking for help? And they called me back and were like, yeah, we are. This was back in 2016, so the remote stuff wasn't nearly as common. But yeah, I had 2 video interviews and came up. And after the first day, I was like, yeah, I found the right place.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. The best part of it is my first day was the company's quarterly all hands meeting. And where the office wasn't big enough for everybody to gather, so they went to the local government center, which was across the street. And I showed up to the office and it was completely empty. Lights off. There was nobody there because they were all across the street. And I was like, oh dear, I moved my family. What have I done? But luckily, somebody was walking by and recognized and got me where I needed to be. But not the start I was expecting, but good story.
Yeah, and I think as well, but just for the listeners, that's really cool. And again, we're probably making it sound really easy, but I'm familiar with your profile, and I know how many steps you've taken and different networking jobs you've had, and sysadmin and stuff like that. So again, it's just you really have worked your way up to that level to then probably make it quite easy at that point. But you've done a lot of work in the
Yeah.
run up. Yeah,
And it was intentional work on my part, right? Like
yeah.
I really tried to get a rounded experience set from across different industries, different organization sizes. Yeah, and all that it just helps because it gives you more to pull from. Like, you see the person that's been at one place for 15 years, and that's the only environment they've ever seen, or somebody who's been at maybe four places over the last 15 years. It's still a fairly decent length of employment across each of the different employers, but they're going to have seen significantly more. And
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think that's a really good point. I've actually talked to a candidate at the minute, and he said that he's been in for a long time, and he said I'm a little bit worried about what I'm missing out on, and I think he's probably right. You got to get the balance right. You don't want to be moving all the time, but
right,
you've got to experience different things, and also just going back to your journey. If we go back to the mission, and the mission is truly to improve security postures, you don't just want to be flying in at a high level when you don't know anything, because you're certainly going to be missing stuff and not doing the provided the service you could be.
yeah, yeah. You don't want to set yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
I always say that's part of one of the things that I really love about consulting is I do still get to see all the different environments, right? Yes, I've been here for close to 7 years, but I've worked with hundreds of customers. It's not like I'm only working on FRSecure's infrastructure, only on our security. It's working across all different organizations, law firms, retail, medical, higher ed, K through 12, you name it, and probably work with people in those different industries. And it really keeps it fresh. It forces you to stay on top of things.
Yeah. Keeps the stimulation levels pumping.
Yeah. And Oscar just pinged me. It's around 100 organizations for HIFI at this point. So,
Okay, great.
so I got my question out there. I don't have to.
Listen, we've saved you getting told off, mate, after the show, have we? Very good. Mentors, Brad. I know we spoke about this before. I think having a mentor is a great thing. Have you had a mentor in your career journey? If you have,
Yeah,
has it? Yeah. Comment. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, it makes a huge difference. I actually didn't find one until really like 2011, 2012. So I was a decade into my career at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and we happened to connect over. I'm a huge Washington Capitals hockey fan, and we were just on one of the fan sites and just to the community, and we ended up talking. And it was like just a good fit from where he was at in his career, where I was at, and that really helped my career take off at that point. That's really where it started to blossom, just because, again, learning from somebody else. Hey, what do you think I should do? Am I crazy? He was a really big impact on me leaving a very secure position in a large established organization to come to FRSecure that was 8 years old at the time, I think, 15, 18 employees. That's moving halfway across the country. That's a risky decision, right?
Yeah.
And so he was really instrumental in talking me off the ledge and letting him know you're not crazy. This sounds like a phenomenal opportunity. And it clearly has worked out really well.
Yeah.
And then Evan himself here, it has been just incredible, just helping with everything. So yeah, I definitely consider him a good friend at this point, not just my boss.
Yeah, no, cool, definitely. And so, Brett, if I haven't got a mentor at the minute, I know you said you were 10 years. You were 10 years before you found one. How would you recommend the best way about finding one?
With LinkedIn being so good now, use your network. Just find somebody who's been there and just be like, hey, literally, will you help me out? Hey, can you mentor me? Can you help? I want to learn more. And it's never too late to get a mentor. I know we've had people that were senior in their careers that have come to Evan and said, like C-levels that said, hey, can you mentor me here? Because I'm feeling a little bit maybe out of my league or whatever in that kind of top first time they've been in that role. So yeah, it really just comes down to taking that leap of faith and saying, hey, I need some help.
Yeah, I think that's really key. You mentioned C-level people. I think everyone has got some form of imposter syndrome. Everyone gets
Hmm.
nervous. Some of us are just better at channeling it into the correct things than others. And
Yeah, I still get implied. There's times where I'm like, am I really providing them value? And then the reviews come back and they're like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm like, oh, cool. All right, I'm glad they're happy. But you do question that sometimes. And
mm,
even now and this far into my career, it does come up.
I do. I get it in mind. I'm taking job specs and I'm thinking, am I going to be able to get this person that quick? And when you do, but yeah, you naturally. I think everyone's always doubting themselves, and I think anyone that says they don't feel like that, it's just, I think they're lying.
Right?
So cool. Okay, Brad. As we come towards the end, some fun stuff, and I know it's certainly interesting stuff. I know there'll be certain things you can and can't say here. I know some of this stuff's kind of sensitive, but what's the most kind of the latest, most interesting threats that you're seeing in the wild
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah. The newest trend that I think we're seeing is where attackers are getting in, exfilling their data, and getting out and then going back and saying, hey, we got your data. Now you have to pay us. But they're not actually ransoming the environment. They're not locking it down.
Okay.
And I think part of that is the governments worldwide have started really cracking down on some of these for the disruptions they cause. So like these newer gangs are looking to still make their money, but maybe avoid some of the
Repercussion.
ramifications of, the attention of the government. If they can just be like, pay it or we're going to sell it. The
Okay.
business isn't out of anything. And we've definitely seen that with some large organizations where they've done that. And it, it sucks. That's why
Mm-hmm.
it's so important to be proactive. Do your pen testing, do your vulnerability scans, have a vulnerability management program, do those foundational things.
Mm.
Try and make yourself not the lowest apple on the.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's interesting. So they're not doing it to stay stealthy or anything like that. It's purely because there's less risk for them.
That's probably another really good point. Is right if they get out and remove their beacons and remove that stuff,
Mm.
they can use them for longer because nobody detects it. Nobody knows what it was because it's gone by the time they let you know you've been caught or you've been
Mm.
had.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
So
Okay. Cool. Any other that we can learn? I
yeah,
do. Yeah. Go on, Brad.
no, yeah, and some of these are a little older, a little secondhand because I don't do a lot of the incident response work anymore. We have a
Mm.
full team that is really good at that, but I'm still involved just because, like I said, it's good for me from a technical standpoint. I still do a lot of CTFs and things like that just to
Mm.
stay sharp on that. But we've seen incidents where they were ransomed completely, backups, everything, and insurance was like, and legal was like, you're gonna have to pay because what's your last backup? And it was 6 or 8 months old at that point that they knew they could be safe. And as they were working to start payment, FBI came in and said, nope, that is a terrorist organization. You cannot pay. You'll be violating federal law. So they had to restore from that old backup and rebuild everything. It, we have a good team. It's a double-edged sword in that, yeah, you want them to have work, but at the same time, we don't like to
Mm.
see the organizations going through those things.
Mm. I think in terms of you tapping into your mission, that you've got a big reason to want to work.
Yeah, and well, going back to the high fee where we can be more proactive and
Yeah.
give our guys stuff to do, but hopefully help remove pain from businesses that
Yeah.
otherwise wouldn't survive. And we've all seen the statistics. Was it like 60% of businesses that suffer ransomware don't make it to 2 years after
Mm.
the event?
Mm.
That's Think about how many people are impacted by that. And
Mm.
so if we can prevent, that's awesome.
Yeah. I think cloud backups is probably a big problem, isn't it? If stuff's backed up in the.
Yeah, the only true way to be truly safe is air gapped, right? We're looking at taping. It's funny how cyclical it is. And then people say it's an immutable backup. It's immutable until they get your admin account and change that. And
Mm.
we've
Mm.
seen that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
truly the only 100% safe way to make sure you have good backups is air gapping, is whether it's to drive and disk and taking it offline or to tape offline, whatever it is. At the end of the day, but we talk about risk. It's the organization's decision. Do they want to do that or take is immutable backups an acceptable risk? That's your choice, but
I think taking it back to self-development for pen testers, I'm sure you'd agree, and I've said this before, but I think reverse engineering this type of thing, because you just get to see what's going on in the wild, and it's the best training for a pen tester ever, isn't it, really?
Oh, yeah. I think most of our pen testers have sysadmin, network admin experience. There's some that didn't that we've hired as associates and taught them, but most of the senior people have that real world experience. And yeah, like I said, it makes your life easier when you know how the environment works, not just from reading a book.
Yeah, cool. All right, but last question from me, and I know I promised you an hour, and we're coming up to an hour, so I'll let you go soon, I promise. But I've seen stuff on your podcast. I saw some stuff about APT strategies and various different things. I think you said, is it 200, 300, 200 episodes you've done, or is it 300?
Yep, 200.
200, yeah. So you've done 200 episodes, which is a lot. What can people expect on then, say, from the pod?
Yeah. So really, it started with me and Evan. Evan is moved on from the day-to-day of FRSecure. So he handed it over to Oscar Minks, who's our CTO. And it really just started as a time for Evan and I to have a dedicated 30 to 60 minutes a week to talk. And so it's really what it's been. It's just conversational. Sometimes people complain because we start with, hey, how's it been going? Hey, we're doing this. Yeah, I was on vacation. It was awesome, whatever. But it's whatever hits our fancy that week. I think probably this week we'll talk about Sophos just released their 2023 or 2022 year in review from their incident response team. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we talk a little bit about that this week and how it compares to what we're seeing. But yeah, it's really just back and forth with whatever strikes our fancy. A lot of times I'll lift the curtain. A lot of times we're like, what should we talk about? And we don't figure it out until kind of the last minute because there's so much stuff going on. Gosh, what should, it's really ad hoc and flows. We'll start one way and think, all right, we're going to talk APTs, and we ended up talking about cloud security, something completely different from where we started. And it is what it is. We just have fun.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think it's great. I think if we were still in the office, you'd be spending more than 30 to 60 minutes a week talking about what's going on in the market or the industry. So I think it's definitely worth just taking a bit of time out. And listen, it's entertaining, kick back, have a coffee, and a bit of self-development, a bit of entertainment, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, we try to have fun with it.
Cool, Brad. Thanks for talking. Is there anything else we need to cover? Have we been over everything? Or?
I think we got everything. That was a lot.
Cool, yeah, it is, yeah. Brad, thanks for your time, and I'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, buddy.